Captain's Log Supplemental.
Hey Jeremy, you know those race cars you're busy building?
Yeah, I do. I
You,
got one that I'm looking at every day.
you know what I don't see you working on?
You don't see me working on the amazing Sentinel system yet.
That's true. It would take all of 10 minutes for you to have one.
And it's very quick and easy to install.
It is. It is. And we could watch you when we are not at the race with you and see how you're doing. And then we can call you up when you get out of the car and tell you everything you did wrong.
And I love that because so many years I've been driving and not been able to see what I'm doing.
I know.
And now we can.
I know. You know what I'd like to do with the video? My most favorite thing is I take the video and I load it on YouTube and then I send it to my coach and say, look at 26 minutes and 17 seconds. Look at this one lap and tell me what I can do better. And every single time, you know what they say?
Everything.
Exactly. Precisely. So with the Sentinel system, you get instantaneous feedback plus useful feedback that unfortunately is accurate for my driving.
I think it's accurate for all of our driving.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's probably true. Yep. But you need to get one in your car, sir.
Yes, I do. And with the discount code that you're going to tell everybody, they can save 10% on this awesome system.
Yep. Trouble free. I haven't had an issue getting video every time we've gone out with the Sentinel. It's always worked. Can't say the same for some of the other systems we've tried. So I don't know. It's on the podcast notes down there. Don't do it while you're driving, though. We like to have our listeners live. It's good.
From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher, and their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher, and our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. Their mission: to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
This episode is brought to you by... Oh, wait, wrong podcast. Welcome back to Garage Heroes in Training. I'm one of your hosts, Kaan Jonter. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicki.
I'm Jeremy.
Bill? I'm Bill, I think.
You think you're Bill.
Wow,
You
it's been
definitely
a
have
long
a Jeremy and a Vicki.
Although,
Right.
Vicki, you're not hosting. This episode is about you, so you're
It
answering
is.
questions. You're not hosting.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that everybody is aware. This episode is all about Vicky or an IQ test for Bill. Because if you hear my voice a lot, I am obviously an idiot and sleeping in a bathtub tonight. Anyway, go on.
But it's my job to keep you out of the bathtub. But since you're sitting
No, it's more
in-
fun to let him get in the bathtub.
Well, it's
I love you, Bill.
entertaining.
Don't need help.
Yep.
Don't need help with that.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't need help.
No.
How is everybody tonight?
I'm good.
You really want an answer? Do you really want an answer?
Yeah, Bill's been away for 3 weeks, mind you. And he still has to go away. He's coming home for the weekend and he's heading back out for the 4th.
And he's been stuck in a lot of really bad weather, a lot of really bad traffic. So
and
I feel for you, Bill.
an episode of Bed Bugs.
Right. What was supposed to be an
Yeah,
easy 3-day trip has turned into a very rough 4-day trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just coming home.
Yeah. Nothing like closing the only road through Pennsylvania for me at the end of a 42-hour drive just to, kick it up a notch. It's good. It's good.
Yes, he's been very much a business parts runner. A cross-country parts runner.
Well, speaking of which, let's Bill needs a soapbox. Just a little venting here. Jaime, What the hell is with all you people in California? There's a 4-lane highway. The only cars in front of me are in the left lane. 4 lanes. All of them in the left lane.
They
What
came. They
the
all went
hell?
from Massachusetts to California.
What the
Right.
hell? And then when it rained, you guys are like pinball machines. My God, you guys suck.
That's why I lemons race on the East Coast, not in the West Coast.
I know
Jaime,
the
you got
answer
work to
to
do.
the I know the answer to this driving in the rain thing in California because they don't do that safety inspection stuff. So they
Bill
drive
told me
on
that?
slicks. They drive on slicks. They run them till the cords show, and then they'll spark all the way to work. Doesn't matter.
And then Bill said what they'll do is they'll borrow tires to get through, and then they'll put their bald
Rent.
ones back on. They
Rent a
rent them
tire.
from friends.
But this was NorCal. NorCal gets rain. This is not a surprise to these people. It gets rain. SoCal, I could see the drive it till it sparks. Jaime, I'll let you go with that. Your brake selection until you did FCP Euro, it's definitely questionable. But dude, these people, they're like spinning out like little tops, just wee off to the side. It was hilarious. And anyway, that's not why we came here.
Nope.
Kaan, why
No.
are we here?
Well, we're here to talk about Vicki and her racing career so far.
Yes.
Am I right?
Woohoo.
Did I guess right?
Yes. Yes, you did.
Oh,
That was a good guess.
Okay.
Yeah. That was
means,
pretty.
little
we had no
shaky.
place to go. We had no place to go but up. We just did Jeremy, so we got to move our way up. then we'll come back down if I ever do this.
Start
If
with
you
the
ever-
bottom of the barrel.
Right?
Yeah, pretty
So-
much. Hey, Jeremy, one question. What do you do good when you're racing, Jeremy?
Nothing.
See, he'll be quiet. He'll be quiet for the rest of the episode there for you, Con. I just gave you a gift.
No, I need participation. He's now instead of being the target, he's one of the snipers in the back. So,
Mhm.
we have to keep him engaged so he knows when to pull the trigger here.
Right.
Metaphorically speaking. I don't want to get you demonetized or anything. So,
Ugh.
No, that's fine. Oh, wait. Traffic update. There's been a route change. One of my things in front of me has cleaned up, and as soon as I'm out of this, I should be normal speed all the way home. I might be home before we're done if this is true.
Oh wow.
all right. Well, let's
That's
get
impressive.
to it, Bill.
Right.
I'm still sitting at 0 miles an hour, so we're not exactly believing this just yet.
So, to keep some semblance of uniformity, Vicki, how did you get
Look
started
around
in
this-
this
around this
racing
doom.
thing?
Oh. Bill. Just Bill. It was his fault. He just kind of said, "Hey, do you want to race? It only costs $500 for the car."
Oh,
Yes,
The lemons-
lies, the
Oh,
the
Bill,
lies.
you're
lemon sales
amazing.
pitch. Okay. So
Yep.
you fell for the lemon sales pitch.
I kind of
Okay.
figured, why not? It just sounded like fun. So I think we had just gotten a BMW and at the time, and it was a new BMW, and we went out to Monticello.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's not too far from us. And we had a really good time. It was like a date together because he had I think they kind of gave you like a coupon to go test your car. I don't know. But we had like a really good time together. And I'm like, this, and then it kind of left at that. And then, a while later, Bill's like, "Hey, do you want to do this? It's like $500, for the car." And, of course, there's going to be some expenses and things like that. I'm like, "Oh, why not?" I mean, the kids are kind of a little bit older and manageable. And yeah, and that's kind of how it started. And it was just
So-
fun. It was a lot of fun. It was so much fun.
So there's one step that she left off. I said, "Hey, why don't we join this place?" And she's like, "Oh, okay." And then I said, "Okay, it's only $20,000."
Oh, yeah,
join.
that
And she's
didn't
like,
go
what,
well.
What are you, crazy? I said, "Well, how about $500? Is $500
Right. He
okay?"
started out high, is what he did. And he wasn't high, but he started out high.
You should
But
see how much it is to join now.
right. So he's like, well, it's $20,000 the initial. And my whole argument was, we got kids going to college at some point. I said, you're talking about $20,000 just the initial, and then you're talking about the yearly fee on top of that, and then you're talking about car maintenance and us actually trying to get there. It doesn't make any financial sense to do that. And he's like, well, why don't we do this? And I'm like, okay. And fool. It would have been cheaper to go to Monticello.
So you didn't come from some race background. You got talked into it by your husband.
No, I didn't come from a race background, but my dad had a radiator shop, and
Hmm.
I was always like cars were like on that side of the family, cars were always kind of around. Um, and I was the tomboy of the family, so I was always running with a Jeep. At that point I was a Jeep person and kind of getting my own little adrenaline things going. So, I have to say that I was around cars at one point in my youth, but I wouldn't say that I was a car junkie, just a
Now,
tomboy.
my wife is a Jeep person,
Yeah.
and they are not the cheapest toy you can drive. They're definitely not dollar for mile per hour the best car
No,
to pick.
no,
Uh,
no. The saving grace that I did have was I lived in Delaware and everything is like 10, 15 minutes away. Wherever you want to go was, I mean, the mass amount of driving you would do is 20 minutes. So it didn't really kill you. But I ended up, I had at that point, I don't remember what year it was, but it was when the Islanders came out. The first time the Jeep Islanders came out, and that's what I owned. I had a white one with a whole sunset thing on the side, and it was really cool. And I had a lot of fun with it. I really did. Um, and I ended up having a carburetor problem with it, which ended up killing it at like 70,000 miles. And unfortunately, I gave it over to my dad's friend to fix it. And I found out many years later that he was one of the worst mechanics you can ever. He was just a really bad mechanic. And that back then they didn't have like all the resources that you have now where you could just kind of YouTube your way through it and solve a problem. You kind of had to go through the books and that kind of stuff. So he actually made my car worse. Instead of having like he said the issue was a carburetor. I don't know if it was a carburetor, but it ended up being a carburetor in the end.
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it, and I was happy to do it. We had good successes early, um, and just as kind of ramping up, it was chaos, but it was fun, and we just kind of stuck with it. Yeah.
It, and by stick with it, you mean the lemons thing.
Yeah, it all kind of started out with lemons, but Bill quickly got us into HPDEs too. Like he wasn't really playing around. He's like, Bill's very much of the if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. So we're gonna go pro. So he got it. Bill was very much guiding the ball for all of us. And
I mean, I won't disagree,
mhm,
only because at least you get more seat time
mhm.
in a different environment. You get some instruction, you get some ability, some more awareness. Uh, I can't imagine being thrown into the fire off right out of the break. I mean, I've never done a lemons race. I know, Bill. I know.
Yeah,
But
I was I was gonna say,
but
yeah.
as a sprint racer myself, I can't imagine being thrown into a 100 car field with zero schooling, right?
It was just driving, and I drove like a Sunday driver. I was out there just having a good time in a car that wasn't going very fast. So, um, no, I don't think I was really phased, but I don't even think I was phased by it at that point. I was just
Okay.
driving, and just watching how I did. But I really think that Bill getting us into HPDEs right away helped a lot to know where we needed to be. It was only when I started panicking when I kind of went up into like AER or Lucky Dog because the cars are much faster, they're much beefier, and um, when they were crowded, you just kind of lose your space. So that was my only panic. But for lemons, it really wasn't. I think at that point we were married into the into the culture. Like probably like on our second outing, we're just like, yeah, we found our idiots, you know.
I mean,
That was actually after our first one, driving home.
What's that?
That was actually after our first race at NJMP, driving home.
Yeah, we're just like, yeah, I think we're all in. It was just a nice way of spending. The kids were in at that point. The kids were really involved. They were
mhm.
enjoying it. Um, so yeah, it was like a family thing early on.
Okay. And at what point did you guys, Vicky in particular, start setting goals for yourself? Because there's a very pretty car behind you that's not your Lemons car.
No, it's not.
So things have evolved.
Yeah. Um, I would say that our approach to it was we're just going to have a good time. And I think it wasn't until probably about the third year in when we started really starting to take things seriously, at least for me.
Hmm.
Um, I think that I don't think I really had time to focus on the goals part of it because cars kept showing up. Yeah, and then there ended up being a I was more involved in the ramping up of it more than I was in trying to and at that point I really wasn't even working on cars. It was just the building part of it. I got more involved in the building part than I was had time to really think about the goals part of it.
Hmm.
Um yeah, so and that was its own story when we had a hard lesson that we had to learn um was Bill and I it was all a lot of fun in the very beginning until it wasn't because at that point we had to take a hard lesson into learning on how to delegate because Bill and I took care of everything and including
Hmm.
at that point we were running two cars and we were preparing the food and setting up camp and prepping the cars and theming the cars and at that point when we were kind of like getting to the races um, we were either too exhausted to enjoy it or we were fighting because we were exhausted to enjoy it. So yeah, that was its own thing. That's a hard lesson to learn because you don't know you're in it until you're in it.
Yeah.
And that's when you have to look at your team and you have to um decide that the two people that are holding the fort down can't manage the fort and people need to step in and what was that going to look like. So my goals ended up not involving around racing until probably about the third or fourth year when I can actually sit and focus on cars and
So,
not on stuff around
right.
cars.
So I think that's an important lesson that I think you've shared it in prior podcasts, but I think it needs to be sent home a little that because you could have easily burned out and quit altogether, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you were able to identify it, have Bill sleep in the bathtub for a couple of nights probably, and and work some things out,
Yeah.
and then your team was receptive enough, right? So if you're starting a team, don't don't wait. Start delegating early. Start seeing who's good at what. See if they want to take charge or at least be the point person. Those types of things.
Right. And that's a key right there is that a person that you're doing that, and you're the people that are in charge of these areas, it is not their sole responsibility. And that has to be made clear. But they are a point person, because they too are going to need help for
Hmm.
their areas. When you're in your area, you get a break or a brief period of time that, don't go just sit around and go pick up a phone and go hang out in a chair. I mean, if you need a break, go take a break, but there's other areas that need to move, but to know that there's a point person there that knows what's going on and knows what needs to get done. And even though they need help, they can in turn delegate to you. And that's
Right.
another thing that you can't have hard lines in certain areas. You just can't on a team.
So you keep talking in years. How many endurance races occurred in that 3 to 4 year period?
Our endurance races, so
3 years
usually,
was 11.
yeah, early on we took all the races. So not only that we were doing, I think the four in our area. I think there's four or five in our area, but we would always do one travel one also. Um, and even if it might have been a travel event, or HPDE event, or it was a travel race. But we always kind of early on, we were able to travel with the family. So we kind of said, let's go out the Midwest and go hit one of those things. So I would say that time on track, there was probably about five five races early on that were actually endurance, and dotted with, oh my gosh, because the kids were able to travel, probably about four HPDE events would happen also.
Hmm.
So there was quite a bit of track time, I would say, within through the year. But then again, you still have to manage the stuff. So
Yeah.
that's when the burnout was happening, because we were doing all of this. So, but yeah, so I would say that there was a pretty good amount of track time, I would have to say, between learning and the actual races themselves.
Okay.
Yeah,
So when I think, especially for you, that lemons is still your jam.
it is. But it's culture
Right.
that is what I mostly enjoy about it. Then, I mean, the racing is the racing, and it's fun. Um, but I'm certainly think ready to really test what I know now. So I do find myself kind of branching out into a little bit of, having my actual competition license,
Hmm.
um, which I kind of went for last year, and I did, but I had to do the follow-up stuff, and I just couldn't get the time to get the follow-up training after I had that certificate. So I would like to go back and do it again, um, to go ahead and have that in hand. And the HPDEs, there's HPDEs, but then there's HPDEs that really know their crap. And that was through Great Lakes. And we spent a lot of time doing Great Lakes, which they really focused on the education part. And when you were on track, you weren't just there doing laps, you were actually there doing drills with specific goals in mind to get around the track. And that, when we started doing that, and getting away more so from the East Coast training and went, upper Midwest, or upper Central, um, then I think that we really elevated our skills pretty quick, and things started to become way more natural on the track after that.
Yeah, that's a statement for the NASA Great Lakes region. They're pretty well known for that style of HPD program. Like
Yeah.
it's
And
no, it's not lapping days up there.
no, no. And every NASA has their purpose, for what you want out of it. And I'm not saying one is bad, one is whatever. Um, but for whatever you want to go for. If you want more track time, East Coast. If you want more education, Great Lakes. And I hear the South has really great food, you know, but so I don't know that, but I haven't hit those, but that's how we manage. I got most of my skill more so through training than I did actually on the track. Track is where I just tested it more
Right.
so.
So, you went through schooling with with NASA Great Lakes and other HPDs, but where exactly did you get your competition license, or where are you seeking that?
The comp license was through SCCA at Thompson, and
Okay.
I was up there with a little girl pack that I had gone up with Audra and Elizabeth, and we talked about that also. Um, it's a grueling 2 days, and you get a lot out of it really really fast, and it's a test for what you actually know. Um, I recommend it greatly, and as I've learned the hard way, I recommend it with a partner to to help out because my car wasn't ready and it was still moving so fast that I was really struggling for those little 5-10 minute windows where I can actually tweak my car to make it fit me because it was a brand new car when I was doing it.
Yeah.
So the stuff that I had thought was set up properly was not set up to fit me properly. So there was a lot of like 5-10 minute windows that I had to make all the adjustments for. And fortunately, I had a friend up there that popped up that was actually working two of our cars at the same time and kept reminding me that I had to take off my brand new glasses, which I kept forgetting I had on my face. Up in there. So, but yeah, so I'll know better when I go back up and do that again. But that is one of my goals is to actually have my SCCA comp license and just be comfortable to say, I have it, I can do this. It's kind of like the attaboy that I need to say that, I feel comfortable now to go race in these upper levels and know that I know that I know that I can be competent to hold
So,
my own.
so is that your motivation? Your new goal is to be more competitive in a
Um,
more competitive series?
I think what I want to do is I want to test to see what I know. I I drive a lot for fun. And
Hmm.
then I kind of have these windows of complete clarity when I'm driving. I'm sure you all hit that moment. It's that Zen moment when everything is clicking. You are 100% in the moment and you're feeling the car. Things are going well, and I've had those windows in the racing that I do amidst the chaos of everything when just everything kind of comes together. Which is an amazing feeling. And that's when I've always done my very, very best and results have happened. And I would like to see, not that I want to get to that point again, but I would like to see outside of lemons, and lemons is fun, it's chaotic. But I would like to see what I can really do without
Yeah,
so
but
many
it's
cars around me and hindering what I'm doing.
well, I mean, you have a spec Miata. That's
No,
what
but
they do.
no, yeah, but no, if I'm going to be doing that, I'm going to be doing it at BMW
Okay.
E46. So, um, that would be the leveled racing that we're going to be doing. It's designed specifically for AER racing, and it's got all the cooling systems in it, and
Okay.
um, it's not a car that was thrown together. It was
Right.
it was designed for that. So I'm excited. I haven't driven it. I'm very intimidated by it. Um, Jeremy's a BMW guy. He's waving his hand. Nah, don't worry about it.
Is it
Uh,
is it like a spec 46 build, Jeremy? No. Bill says yes. Jeremy says no. This is great.
and both of them are muted.
The of them are
So
muted. Yeah.
So it's a spec E46, except I have the cage is a little beefier than allowed. So there's no
Yeah.
changes beyond. Oh, and it doesn't have the stock suspension. It's got equivalent, but not spec suspension.
Right. It's missing a lot of spec things. It would take quite a bit of money to change it, convert it over to spec. Same with
No.
my car. It would take a ton of money to, well, my car more so, but it's I
But
would
it's a
say
base
that
330 or something, right?
it's a 330, yeah. So
Okay.
it's essentially what the basic platform for a spec E46. Um I would say, yeah, in the right hands, it's going to be quicker than that Mazda. Um,
Yeah.
but not by
It
much. Like
better be.
those Spec Miata guys are crazy.
No,
I
get out
got
of
a really
here.
close friend of mine that always gets taken out in Spec E46 by Spec Miata guys.
Really?
Well,
Yeah,
let me
probably when
rephrase
he's
that. He doesn't
lapping
get
them.
taken out. They usually try to dive bomb and they usually hit him.
Yeah. No, I think it's because it's a bigger car, it's a heavier car. I'm used to driving smaller cars. Um, the BMW is not it just I've driven a BMW for a very short time before it was wrecked. Not by me this time, but it was a lot of fun. It was a very balanced car going around the track. That's one thing I do remember of it. It felt like almost I felt more sitting in the center of the car than I did feeling like all my braking was either in the rear or in the front. It just felt very centered as a vehicle when I was driving it. Um,
So the new one
hmm
is going to feel the same way, just a little bit faster and actually easier to drive.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to actually track that at an HPDE before I go onto a track with it. Just so I can get comfortable. I don't like hopping into a car that I don't know very well. That's a large car, you
I
know.
mean, don't that'll test your skills though.
It will test my skills. It really will. Um, but that's what I would like to do is just to see how much I've learned and and to quit fluffing around with it and just really put it to the test.
Okay.
hmm
Bill, do you have any sniper shots over there right now? Or are we staring at
Yeah,
the sunroof?
no, the the E36 that she drove was kind of I think a technical word is cheaty.
Hmm.
So the E46 that she's got that she's worried about is probably really close to the same. If it is faster, it's not by you not by anything really that you're going to notice. So, but if she wants to test it on an HPDE, that's fine. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of bells and whistles in it, like on the control panel, more than the other one did. So
Well,
understanding what they all are and what they do and stuff like that. It's got more systems in it, if I have, probably the better way of putting it.
I'm sure you
but
got the
nothing makes
cool
it.
suit.
Yeah, nothing makes it go faster though. So it's just
Yeah.
you know control.
Okay.
Yep.
Eh, So you guys started off with we found our people with the lemons themes and the chaos, but the camaraderie, right?
Yes.
And now you're moving on, not moving on, you're adding, because I don't
Yes.
think you're moving on. You're
Right.
adding in a very purpose built car for a very purpose built type of race. Okay.
Yes.
So, what motivated that?
Um,
Jeremy did it.
well, no. Well, the car showed up. Number one. Car showed up and the opportunity has showed up with it. And that is not the vehicle that you would put in lemons anyway. So you got to put it somewhere. And and I've already raced in Lucky Dog before. I never raced in AER, but I raced in Lucky Dog twice.
Hmm.
Um and both of them were with cars that weren't the best. They they were work. They were a lot of work to get around the track. But yeah, but I think it's because it's the car that's available and it just feels leveled. It
You
feels
know,
like
you can race your,
it
you can
feels
race
like
your
leveled.
Miata.
Yeah, no, I
You
could.
can race. Okay, just saying.
Yeah.
So this is, I'm sort of trying to go down this road because you started with lemons crap canny type builds with big themes, right? Like, because that's
Yeah,
what
well,
everybody
that's because
starts with.
it's not intimidating.
Okay.
See, and I think that the other one feels intimidating, more so to me because they just feel like they're bigger cars, better cars, faster cars. There's not as many cars. So you can really focus on your racing and not focus on traffic as much. Um, so, you know, it just feels like you're kind of raising the bar by doing it. And I want to see if I can meet that challenge.
You you kept saying equalized or something. The theme that you've had in prior podcasts is that you want, it seemed more like you wanted to evaluate your driving against your competitors on a more even playing field, is what I believe I've heard. And I thought that was the motivation for the Miata because I'm not convinced that an E46 endurance car is necessarily equalized to another, unless it's another E46.
I wouldn't say equalized, I would say elevated.
Okay.
I would say elevated, unencumbered going around the track so you can actually focus on your driving and not focus on traffic. When you race in lemons, a lot of the time you're racing until Saturday is traffic management. Always traffic management. But when you start going up into the upper levels, your racing is cut by the amount of cars on the track are either cut by half or two-thirds by the amount. So you can actually focus on speed, you can actually focus on driving, you can focus on your skills and not focus on traffic. So that's what it feels like. I mean, lemons, you're never able to really punch it all the way around the track and really test yourself because you get mauled up and mired up in all these, you know, in the mud. You're always in the mud,
Yeah.
you know, right. So kind of having a beefier car and opening yourself up to actually focusing on your skills and not so much just on the skill of traffic um, would be very interesting to see what I can actually do and just to quit farting around basically and just say, I'm walking in and I want to be competitive and I'm going to hold my own um, and just focus on speed and skill at that point and, deal with traffic when you come up with traffic, but you don't have, it's not the same traffic level that you have to deal with in, say, AER and Lucky Dog as you would in Lemons, which
So
slows you never really race a true line in Lemons. You can't.
okay.
So, much like an HPDE, when you have a limited amount of people on the track, you can focus on a line. You can focus on your skills. You can focus on speed, but you can't do that in Lemons because there is no true line. You do your best to get you have a line when there's no cars around you and you exercise all your skills to their full potential, but you can't do that if you have 120 cars on the track.
The racing line in Lemons is where there isn't a car.
Right.
Okay.
So, right. And by Sunday lines will emerge, where you can actually Sunday is when you start to really focus on your true skill at that point because you have track. You actually have track to race. Other than that, you can be going, full on, and all of a sudden you'll hit, 30 cars in front of you, and now you got to figure out where you're going to be. And now it comes down to the skill of traffic management and how are you going to cut through traffic. You
That's
wait
when
for
the
that
fun
fast
begins.
car, it cuts the line right through, and you hop in the back end of it and you cut through the traffic, and then you start your line again. So if I'm elevating up, I can now focus on how good am I now? If I get
Mhm.
out of this part and really focus on that now. Now I can focus on the actual racing and the skill levels of that. Is that making sense?
No, it makes sense to me. So here's my
Yeah.
follow-up question to that is what are you doing outside of preparing this E46 to sharpen those skills for you to be ready for that AER race?
Nothing right now. right at right at this moment has not I literally had just opened my garage last week.
So I'm not
Right.
literally saying right now, but what
Right,
what are
right.
your
Oh, yes.
intended plans? What are the things that you enjoy focusing on
Yeah.
to then refine these skills that you are going to need for AER? Because we're not diminishing the traffic management skills that you've learned to this point.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to use that much less, but it's still going to come into play, right? There's
Right.
still areas of traffic management. It happens with every race, sprint racing and mixed class sprint racing specifically. Even in GLTC, those guys start lapping the back end of the field and they have to learn traffic management that way. It happens at all levels, every type of racing. So
Yeah,
it's an
I'm
important skill that you got a
great at
bunch of, right?
traffic management.
Yeah.
I'm good at traffic management. I got that part down.
So
What
what
am
do
I?
you think you're weak at and how are you going to work on it?
So I do need to do some track time. The area that I mostly need to focus on, and I have grown, is to work on going around the track one gear higher for speed, because sometimes I've always played it safe. So I have been taught that, go around the track one gear higher, in certain aspects to see what you can do. The second part that my weakness is my braking zones, which I've gotten a lot better with. And that is the area when I was racing last year that I was mostly focusing on is shortening up my brake zone, and looking at the if that makes any sense, the topography of the track,
Mm-hmm.
to where are those slopes going in that are going into these end of the long stretches. That's my weakness, is the end of the long stretches. It has always been. And I've been working on those for about 2 years. And just to, pucker up a little bit and, shorten that up and don't look at the paddles and look at the apex. Actually, don't even look at the apex, look at the exit area. More so than going in, focus on where you want to exit, and then that determines on how you're going to go in to get that. So I've been doing that work. Those are my three areas that I needed the most. The rest of it just kind of comes into play. And I think the next one is, this year, I believe we have a coach that's going to be reviewing my stuff. And I'm going to get a coach in the car this time because I know I have developed bad habits because I've only had a coach in my car once. And
Mm.
and I'm even willing to take Bill. So I'm willing
Oh,
I'm even willing to
Bill,
have Bill in my car.
we're recording, right? Like
Yeah.
we
I
need
don't
this for
I don't think
posterity.
Bill wants to sleep in the bathtub for a month.
Yeah. So I'm willing to do that. I do know that I have the bad habits, and I do know that I need to better sort out my shifting position. So there's some areas, and honestly, I think that having a coach in the car to point out certain things for me, yeah, to having certain areas for me that I can say, okay, this is what you're doing. I can make those corrections two more times out on track 2 more events, and I think I would have that all kind of sorted out. But some of it you don't know, and you're doing something wrong, but you don't know what it is.
Hmm.
And having somebody in the car to point that out would be beneficial, even if it's
Um,
Bill.
One thing, Con, that got to jump in. Sorry, I'm in the dark driving now. Ross gave you the 1 gear higher as a drill, not as a racing skill.
Okay.
That was to get you to be more concerned with car balance
Mm-hmm.
and entry into the turns and seeing that you can carry the speed. Not That's not a something you're supposed to be carrying over into your racing necessarily. So we can work on that.
We can
I
work on
think
that. Yeah.
Jeremy will have a better success at working on that with you than I will. But
Yeah. But we
just
also have, like I
you know,
said, we also have a coach to review my stuff. So,
you
and I
do.
really loved when Jackie was coaching me because I made great strides when we had Jackie working with the AIM with us. Um, that was pretty incredible, you know.
I think everybody could make great strides with Jackie helping.
Yes, I think
She's
so.
so
impressive.
Yeah.
yeah, the big thing is you said braking, and everybody except for Jeremy, because Jeremy said he's like 9 out of 10 with braking, according to
In
Ross
in
Bentley.
our in our skill set that we do.
Yeah.
If I went out
um,
with UConn, like I said, probably down to a 4.
well,
Hmm.
that's the thing, right? It's my weakness. Ross says it's everybody's weakness. If you're a coach and you need something to look at, you can always look at braking, right?
Hmm.
Some of it's fear, some of it's technique, some of it's setup, some of
Right.
it, some of it is people want to push the wrong corner, right? And you're some corners are not to be the latest braking corner out there. Some of them you have to, slow down a little early. There's topography issues.
Hmm.
Uh, the, the dominating with Dawson, I heard, yes, my car will brake at the 3 marker at VIR,
Right.
but it will not be happy when it does it.
Right.
It's front wheel drive. It messes up my ABS, and it's because between the 3 and the 4, there's a dip. Okay. And so at the 3, your car actually starts unloading and it immediately hits ABS. So I have to come back. I actually hit and it's lighter because it's transitioning uphill.
Hmm.
Listen to the dominating with Dawson. Anyway, there, there's topography that you talked about looking at, and it will influence
Right.
things that you are doing, right? But it's a track by track basis. But there's the techniques, when to get into the ABS, when to not be in the ABS, because the E46 probably has a pretty beefy ABS system. I've seen those boys; they slide the snot out of those cars with the brake lights glowing. Man, it's insane what they're doing with them. So, um, that's probably a whole new world you've never stretched the legs of, you
Hmm.
know, and it's going to take time and practice, and you're going to inch your way into that.
Hmm.
And so, but all of these things, everything that we all have to work on, because we all have things that we need to work on as drivers, we
We
need
never
to,
stop learning.
yes, but we need to identify them and target it. I just wanted to make sure that you were targeted and wanted to work on certain things.
Hmm.
That way you knew what you were going to improve with, because that's
Right.
that's the most important thing as a driver. If you're like, "Oh, I'm taking this E46 out and I'm going to be competitive." Okay, but there's
What does
things
that
that you
look
need to work
like?
on. Yeah, what does it look like? You can't just say it, right?
Right.
Then it turns into a Sunday drive. You'll be going faster than you do in your Lemon Civic, that's for sure,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
But will you be going as fast as you can in the E46?
Right.
And so that's how you challenge yourself as the driver. So I just wanted to make sure you had that stuff lined
Hmm.
up, ready
Good
to go.
question.
Bill disappeared on us. Look at him.
I'm still here. I think
Okay.
one of the things that uh, Vicki will be more comfortable with is if we shift from the Civic, which is front wheel drive, very light in the rear, to what I think she's more comfortable with the rear wheel drive, be it the BMW or the Spec Miata. She won't get, I don't believe she'll get as nervous with high speed entries because the back's going to be more stable.
Right.
That's a working theory, but that's kind of where I'm thinking.
Yeah, I
Maybe.
didn't really have a problem when I was racing a truck because I learned how to rotate it. I was never really comfortable. Like I really can't rotate the Honda the same way. It pulls, it doesn't
You drive
push.
them different.
Yeah, so it
It's a good
doesn't
I
thing
get
we're
that same
fixing.
thing.
I had
It's a good thing we're fixing.
Yeah.
I had Eric Coons on my podcast to talk specifically about driving techniques for front wheel drive cars, and they're completely different animals. The way you set up entry is very, very different.
Much, much different.
Um, so
It's a lot harder to drive a front wheel drive car fast than it is a rear wheel drive car fast. It's a much different skill set, and it takes a lot more focus. And yeah, it's a much different
Yeah,
car, much different car.
it's a little bit of a it messes with your brain a little bit because it's when you feel like you're losing it, you punch the gas in a front wheel.
mhm.
And
Assuming
you
you have
you
enough
do the
power.
opposite in the rear wheel. So it's uh it's different. It's just different.
Yeah, and when you hesitate in a
Yeah.
front wheel drive car,
Hmm.
you exacerbated the issue, and you inevitably fell out of the power band, whatever little power band you had,
Hmm.
and it won't pull you out anymore. So
Right.
you're either in it all the way or you're out of it all the way, 2 feet in and trying to steer your way away from something.
And
So,
that's what had me hit the wall right there.
yes. it's a it's a different animal, but I don't find them hard to drive, but
No.
maybe it's because it's what I've mostly done my entire life.
Right. So I've done both, right?
Hmm.
I do both. And it is a lot more challenging to drive a front wheel drive car close to its limits than it is a rear wheel drive. Most rear wheel drive cars close to their limits.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
and like I mentioned before, it's like when I have a rear wheel drive, I feel seated in it better because I can feel the back end. And in the front wheel drive of the Honda, because it's so light, I don't feel that. When I'm driving my Miata, I can rotate the Miata. I know what it's doing. I can steer. I think what it, how do they put it? The gas steers the back and the steering wheel steers the front. So you can actually play with two forms of it. Does that make sense?
oh, it makes sense to me, but
Right. It's you're I think with a rear wheel drive like my Miata, I can manipulate both ends of it. When I don't really get that from the Honda, I can only manipulate the front and hold on, if I happen to be losing the back end and I punch it and I can straighten the car out. But I don't have to do that with a rear wheel drive. I can play with a rear wheel drive. I can punch the gas and rotate the back end if I need to. Does that make sense? Or is that just
it
me?
it makes sense, but maybe I'm just a simple-minded fool who's like, I only have to manage the front of the car because the rear of the car just follows when I drive
Right.
my front wheel drive car, right?
Right, and that's what it feels
So,
like. Yeah, in the front wheel drive, that's what it feels like. The back end
yeah,
just follows.
just manage the front and let the rear follow.
Right.
The trick is when they get loose,
Yeah.
then you get then you worry about speed of your hands,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yeah.
Excuse me, your foot must stay committed.
In the front
But
wheel
then
or the
you
rear wheel? The front?
in the front, your
Yes.
foot must stay
Yes.
committed,
Don't
but your
lift.
hands
Don't
must work
lift.
hard.
If you lift, you're screwed.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
well, you're going into a new world, but you're going to do it in a more comfortable chassis
Hmm.
for you, a more comfortable layout for you. So I think that's good. Um, but you still need some coaching in a front wheel drive because
Oh,
they're a blast.
absolutely. Yeah. I do. I do. I'm
Jeremy, do you have any saved rounds over there? No?
No, I mean, I like one of these questions, and I think
Go
that
for it.
if we're good here, let's move forward. Um, so Vicky, as Bill kind of dragged you into this crazy world of racing, um, what were the things that most surprised you about the racing part of it? Not the paddock, not the Lemons world, but like on track, the racing part of it. What was like that biggest thing, that huge surprise that you were like, "Oh, I never saw this coming," or whatever.
how all in I would be. Yeah, I mean, I
It's a heck
didn't.
of a drug.
Well, it is. It's like it's a junkie. Like I really get charged when I'm behind the wheel once things get rolling and once you get the rest of it out of your head. I didn't think that I would be going from the artsy girl to being a freaking mechanic. I didn't see that coming. Um, Being in the car, I didn't realize how safe I would be in the car. I also I didn't realize how unafraid I would be. I really didn't. Those big as for the driving stuff, I mean the skill is the skill and you learn as you go. Um, there's a thing that when you learn, everything is extremely overwhelming in the beginning, and then after a while, all that stuff gets pushed back into second nature, and you just don't think about it anymore. You don't think about all this in the very beginning. Like I said, it's so overwhelming and everything is important. And then by the third year in, you don't even think about half of what you were worried about behind the wheel. And then everything you start getting to a point when all that stuff moves to the background and now you're focusing on carcraft. And that's where the fun really kicks in is when you start playing with carcraft and you start working on technique versus just, getting around the track.
Right.
So
Just
those,
staying alive, you get to work on
right.
more
So,
things than just staying alive. You get to work
right,
on racecraft and all
right.
that
It's
stuff.
when, getting around when you first step in, it's hop in the car, strap in, go fast, and then you
Fast is
realize,
relative when you start, also.
right. And that, just get around the track and go fast and the steps that your brain takes and how it shifts and how, like I said, things kind of go to the background. You don't even think they're like, well, what is your footwork? Well, I don't know. I haven't even thought about it, you know, because I just do it. And when people ask me questions, well, what is this that's going on? I don't know. I just do it because now I'm thinking about something else. That stuff has moved to the back, which is why I need to have a coach in my car because the stuff has moved to the back and has become second nature, which means I got to pull it up to the front because I'm doing something wrong. So that's I think is what surprised me the most is how your brain on a racetrack just kind of shifts with information. And then the zones that you fall into, that kind of shocked me also. But, and you never stop learning. You just don't. Even when you think you have something, there's still more to learn.
Always.
And
Always.
kind of going into that, I never really thought about it. You think about just going in, oh yeah, I can race, hop in the car, go fast. There's a lot more to it than that, but not to be scary about it. But HPDs are great for that. They hone you in those little areas.
Yep, they sure do. So, are there any like bucket list? What are we doing?
My bucket
Okay.
list, definitely to get my comp license, definitely get
Okay.
behind into an AR. And the thing is like we mentioned them, but you know, I we're actually doing them. And the other thing too is that my kids are like in school now. Um, I mean, like college school, they're older now. And it'll be fun to be released a little bit to say, hey, we can go down to South Carolina now. We don't have to be back for Monday school. We
Hmm.
can go and travel to some fun tracks now, Bill and I, and kind of hook up with, our friends and kind of expand a little bit more in that kind of little freedom realm. So those are kind of the bucket list, just to kind of travel around a little bit more. I'm still nervous about getting that car with spec racing because it's still too pretty. So, um, we'll figure out what we're going to do with
Whatever.
that
You'll
one. We're going to
First
figure out
corner,
that one.
first corner, you'll have some
you'll have to get over it.
door
Yeah,
marks.
I know. I know. And that's the other thing is bucket list is how I'm going to play with this Miata that I
Okay.
have. Hmm.
All right.
So real quick, Vicky, and this is gonna it's kind of a broad thing here, but give me one of your biggest highs and one of your lowest lows in one of your races or multiple races. It could be the same race, both happen.
One of my biggest highs was beating Bill on the track. That was a good one. And the only reason why I say that, and I don't mean that
Because
as,
yeah,
I
I'm
don't
just
mean that
glad you
as
prefaced it with on the track.
right, right. And I
well,
and I
the
don't
others give it.
and I don't mean that as a slight to Bill whatsoever, because Bill's very good and everything. And Bill's extremely competitive. And he kind of peacocks it a little bit sometimes. He really does. And that's okay. So knowing that I kind of can be on an even playing field, even just to be on an even playing field, and then just to like, oh yeah, like I beat you just by not only did I beat you, but they kind of went out and said your wife kicked your ass. You know, that was just like, hey, you know what? That was like a high. That was a high. Um, it said something like I can do this. You know, I can do this. That was a high. And that was just in training. That was just in training. The other high was the fact that I think we won our our C class without even knowing it. And truck hunting was a high because I actually had so we race at that point we were racing the S10 and
Hmm.
and I would go and hunt trucks. I didn't really care about all the other cars as long as I was going after the other trucks. And for some reason, when that was happening, it almost became into a hyper focus thing, and my driving had improved because there was a goal on the track, not to be stupid and to still, be safe on the track. But at that same time, I learned how to rotate the back end and still going out and overcoming that truck. But that those little personal wins, they were highs for me because it just kind of stood out to go, you know what, I can do this. And those were those little wins. Um, as for lows, wrecking the car was the low. Um, that was and that was half a lap down, and that was just this last August. And I yes, I hit something before when I was at Laguna Seca. Was it Laguna Seca? I think it was Laguna Seca. But that car was already an issue. And nobody
Yes.
believed me how much of an issue that car was until somebody got behind the wheel and said this car's an issue. But I also went into a situation where we were three wide and I lost control of the car. And I was in the middle of the three wide. Um, but that was the first time where I knew what I did when I messed up. And I messed up because I was stupid and I was careless and I was in my head. And I did
We're
process.
talking about racing. We're talking about racing, not getting married to me.
So that was my low, is knowing that I hit the wall, knowing why I hit the wall, and knowing that I was in the race. The best way of putting it. I was racing a person, not racing the track. That's what happened. When I was racing with the trucks, I was still racing the track. I was more focused on a car and a person than I was the track and my own driving. And that's where I screwed up. Um, and that was a hard blow. And it was a tough lesson to learn, but it's one that I won't forget. And I think that that is most important, that when you do have an instance like that, when you do have an accident and you have to deconstruct what you did. You have to figure out, how did you get there? Why did you get there? Was it the car? What was it about your driving that caused that to happen? And what kind of where was your headspace? Where was your headspace? You know, if it wasn't conditions, if it wasn't mechanical, where was your headspace to make you lose control? And to acknowledge that and make those corrections next time you go back on track, so you don't revisit that again. That was the hardest lesson for me. That was a low point, but I got a lot out of it when it happened. Bill just walked
You just didn't want to share the car with me.
in.
Bill, are you
Bill's
ever going to
home.
drive that thing before it's gone?
Doesn't seem like it.
Bill just walked in the door.
He did. He's home. You haven't seen him in 3 weeks.
I haven't seen him in 3 weeks. So anyway, yeah, that was my low point, I have to say. I don't think I've really ever had a low point that was that bad for me.
No, a big crash is always usually the big low point for
Yeah.
most people. So
Jeremy's
unless-
like, ask
unless you
me
do it
how I
multiple
know. Jeremy's like, ask me how I know. Yeah, but yeah, I can't blame it. There's no, and I didn't want to blame it on anything else. The people were coming up to me. They're like, "Oh, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just want to go." I went in and I kind of laid down. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want any sympathy. I didn't want to explain what happened because I didn't really know at that point. I really had to think about what happened and had to come to terms with what happened before I can, you know, deal with everybody else around. It wasn't about me, tail between my legs or like that. I really had to deconstruct what happened before I can kind of do anything about it and talk to people about it. And it took me about half an hour, I think, just to figure out. And then, so yeah, that was it. That was me. But I'd
Kaan,
do it
what else you
again.
got?
I don't know. Bill's been gone for 3 weeks. I think we let the Fishers have some time.
You want to come
I
sit
think
with
that's
me?
the first time I've ever seen Vicki excited to see Bill. No, I'm just kidding.
Come sit with me, honey.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel pretty good about the questions. I mean, I think we went through what we really were looking to go through. And hey, there's Bill. And yeah.
Bill, what do you have for us?
I think we've accomplished the goal. I am not in the bathtub so far.
That was the goal.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, I would have to say that was it. That was the big one.
All right.
Kaan,
I like
thank
it.
you.
You're
Thanks,
welcome,
Kaan.
sir.
It's always fun.
Yeah.
Always.
You're
Anytime.
way more professional than I am, and than Bill is.
I can put on a facade for a while. It's okay.
Oh,
Mhm.
good.
Oh, that's right. You two haven't met in person yet.
No.
No, not yet.
You know where it'd be a good place to meet while we're thinking about
Oh.
it? NJMP.
Oh, NJMP or Summit
or
Point.
Summit Point, either
Oh,
one.
yeah. Let me look at my calendar on air. What's
October something.
October?
Come on. I'm trying to get my calendar to pull up so I can tell you what weekend it is.
October 20th weekend,
Hold
I
on.
think.
I'm going to the real calendar.
Working from memory.
Yeah, it's got to be the 18th, 19th.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
No. 10, 11, 12.
No, I was close.
Oh, Lord.
17, 18, 19 is New Hampshire. 10, 11, 12 is Summit.
I thought it was
And
the week after. Okay.
Lucky Dog Pit Race is the week after.
Yeah.
Well, I'm adding you to my calendar officially.
Oh, is that a yes? Is that a
I'm
yes?
99% sure that's it, but I will have to double check.
Is that a yes for Con or is that a maybe for Con? I'm just curious.
No, he said he's adding it, so that's a yes.
That's
To
a
get
yes.
to the
It's a
That's a
track.
yes,
yes.
I will arrive.
We have to remember now. We have to bug him to bring gear.
Arrive and drive is the
No, I didn't say the drive part.
Yeah, I'll wear you down. You know I'll give you
So
a pain.
it's funny because I am friends and work with a lot of people that have various different racing backgrounds, and some professional, some retired, some whatever. And Con, if you do some Lemons races, it can make you and will make you a better racer in your specific racing that you do.
So I have no doubt. I have to overcome some obstacles, but we'll see.
Place to sleep.
I don't want to
check.
be in the bathtub either.
Place to
This is
sleep.
true.
Check. Food. Check. Car. Check.
I'm
cost
sleeping at my
$0.
house.
Well,
Cost
Summit Point's
$0.
perfect because you could come up for the day. Hey, I'm going to hang out with the guys for the day, and then you bring your gear and you jump in the car and you do a stint.
It's not like
Yeah,
with that
yeah.
haircut, they're going to tell you're sweaty.
My wife will know my gear disappeared, so because I need her to find it all.
Yeah, I can't make the same promises for your gear coming back the same way. So
Right.
It's like walking out the door backwards.
Yeah.
His bag behind his back.
Yeah. So
That's all right. We got a few months, Bill. We can keep slowly working on him.
we'll wear him down. All he's got to do is say yes to the wrong question. And we'll just tell him that was what the question was, and he'll never know. It'll be fine.
Con, pretty soon we're going to be traveling. We'll
okay.
be traveling soon. We'll come down to Summit and hang out with you.
Okay. I'm in.
Yeah.
Very well. All right. Until part 3, and maybe 4 or 5. We'll see who's not being shy.
Who's next?
And then after we go through all these, we're gonna have a surprise guest at the end.
Will we?
We will.
Woohoo.
All right. Very well. Con, thank you again. How would people find you? Because obviously you're the best host we've ever had on this episode.
Oh Lord. Just look up the Blind Apex podcast.
Exactly.
You'll find me.
Yes, go listen. Everybody, go listen.
Start your Sunday mornings in the garage when you're working on your car, putting your crap back together to the wonderful, eloquent words of Con's guests.
Right. Not me.
Con's guests.
Yes.
Exactly. All
All right. Have a great night, guys.
Good night.
Have a wonderful night.